Welcome to Political Beatdown. It's Michael Cohen here with today. Today we have Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is part of our Midas Touch Network family. He has 5-minute news. He's on all the time. Anthony, which other shows do you have there at MTN?
On Wednesdays, I do Uncovered with Ron Filipkowski, where we uncover the MAGA propaganda. And on Sundays, I do the Weekend Show, which is the long interview shows where we get deep into the pro-democracy rhetoric. So, I'm a huge fan of yours, Mike. I just want to start with that. Just want to blow a little bit of smoke in your direction because I'm a big fan of this show. So to be here, it feels very weird. I feel like we're crossing the streams in those Marvel movies.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. The only thing is the accent is kind of throwing me off because, what ends up happening, I'm actually going to be on the BBC tonight. I'm doing some election result work for them. So I'm actually, believe it or not, in Washington, D.C. right now. And that's why, of course, you'll notice the bed in the background, not my home. This is a hotel room. But look, obviously, today's the big day. Today's the day that we have been talking about now for a long time, Ben and myself and everybody on the MTN network. We've all been talking about this day for a really, really long time. And you know what I want to do, Anthony? I want to actually place our brigaders. That's what we call our political beatdown. They're the brigaders. I want to put some of your minds to ease here. All right? Because we're going to show you some stuff, as we always do, that should sort of explain why Donald Trump cannot possibly win, why there is not 50.1% of this country stupid enough to believe and to listen to the absolute rambling, nonsensical speeches of a lunatic mind, right? Because that's really what it is. It's the nonsensical rantings of a lunatic mind. That's actually from the movie Young Frankenstein with Gene Wilder. And one of the things that I want to first start out with is there's so many people standing right now. They have these correspondents at so many different swing state poll sites and so on. And what we're beginning to get information on is forgetting about all of the ballots. It's like 72 to 74 million ballots have already been sent in. I believe that the number is obviously even more. But they're polling people at these sites, asking them who are you voting for and why? Because it's not just major news outlets and cable news outlets, but it's also people like us, podcasters and people with shows like Harry Sisson. He's over there and he's talking to people in Philadelphia and so on and so forth. I want to show you a clip, all right, where in deep red Georgia, all right, deep red Georgia, they start asking them questions. Voters are voting blue. Just play the clip.
I have voted Republican, Yeah, I vote for the man. I don't vote for the party.
So what are your thoughts on the election?
What are my thoughts on what?
On the election.
Ain't much to think about it.
Well, who are you going to vote for?
The right person.
Well, who do you think the right person
It won't
is?
be Donald Trump.
Okay, tell me why.
Last time you saw him talking, did you watch his lips?
Uh-huh.
Were they moving?
Uh-huh.
He's lying.
He's lying. Yeah.
He's lying. Right? By the way, that was deep red Georgia. I don't think that county has seen a Democrat in like 40 some odd years. It's incredible, right, Anth?
I get the feeling that the media have fallen for Trump's confidence trick, right? Which is to convince the country that he's popular, to convince the country that he's a winner, when the guy hasn't won anything since 2016. And so that everything has to be performative. We know that, did you see that clip where he was at the rally and he was like, there's never an empty seat here? And the cameraman decided to zoom out and show all these empty seats in there. That was finally, the curtain being pulled back from the wizard. I really get the sense that the media have been so slow to kind of realize that this whole storyline is basically a production, and that in reality, voters are not going to put a convicted felon back in the White House. They're just not. And the polls, they don't seem to reflect that.
What's very funny is I was just, checking out X, and this one person turned around and said, there's no doubt Kamala's going to win. It's reality versus reality TV. And that's really the best way to kind of, I thought it was brilliant. Reality, which is what Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are living in. And then you have reality TV, where everything, as you just stated, of course, in a much better accent than my, semi-Long Island, Brooklyn, New York accent.
I'm a big fan of that accent.
Yeah, well, that's only because it's not yours, right? Yours is the accent that gets the women. So what ends up happening is, it's reality TV. It's all about him sitting there. By the way, Jeremy, if we have that clip of the cameraman who goes ahead, I don't know if it was actually done to embarrass Trump per se, as much as it is to, again, acknowledge that Donald Trump is lying. Yeah. That he's basically lying to people who are there. So in essence saying, ignore your lying eyes. Right?
But maybe we can talk about that for a second, because you know him, right? You've been with him. There is something about someone with a character like that where he could be in a room with people and literally tell them that the sky is a different color, and they'll kind of believe it because he's standing there, and they buy into his confidence and to his kind of lying narrative. Is there some truth to that actually everybody in that rally room knows that it's empty, but because they are in the cult of Trump, they ain't going to say anything?
So nobody's saying anything because at a rally, right, and you're there with other maggots, you're not going to say anything. But of course they realize that he's lying. In fact, one of the things that so many cameramen are actually showing as well, which again Donald is lying about, when he says, nobody ever leaves my rallies. Quite frankly, they leave hers. There's nobody even there. She only had 100 people, and we're full to the capacity. And there's hundreds of thousands of people waiting outside. And again, the people are like looking around, like, what are you talking about here? This is
but these are the two realities. If you have
that clip, I would love for you to play it. Just interrupt me and just drop it right in there.
Fire it in.
Yeah, fire it right in, because it's absolutely hysterical. Here, all of a sudden, he's saying something that you know is not true. It would be like if I turned around and I said to you that I'm the center for the New York Knicks. And you're saying, yeah, I actually happen to know who the center is. And you're 5'11", he's like 7'4". There's got to be something wrong. Are you sure that you really mean you're the center for the New York Knicks? And I say, yep, 100. That's exactly who I am. And I scored a quadruple double yesterday. And they're saying to me, nobody's ever done that in the history of basketball. Nobody's ever played basketball, quite frankly, the way I play basketball. I'm the best basketball player ever. And you sit there and you're like, stop it, right? But you're not saying it. For what reason? I don't know. But I do have to say, Donald Trump can be extremely charming. He can. Though the Donald Trump that we're seeing today is extremely different than the Donald Trump that I knew when I was with him for almost a decade and a half. So mine isn't like some casual meeting where it's like, hey, I was the first phone call every single morning at like 5 a.m. and the last at 11 and change at night before he went to sleep for over a decade. All right. And I'm going to tell you something too before I end up showing you that clip. He doesn't have a Michael Cohen around him. He does not. And you know what? I'm actually thankful that he doesn't, because if I was still around him, things would be very different. And I think that this election would actually be a whole lot closer for him, if not even him victorious. Because there's so many great mistakes, Anthony. Yeah. There's so many great mistakes that I see them making on a daily basis that I said, I never would have allowed this to happen.
Let's talk about how he's changed, because you said he's changed in the last decade. He's kind of unrecognizable, and I even noticed that this morning he went to put his ballot in the box in Florida with his pay-per-view wife, and I was just like, he seemed really very, not meek, because that's never a word I really want to use to describe that guy,
lethargic,
but like a shadow of his former self. Tell us about the difference between then and now.
Well, first of all, remember, I worked for Donald, and as an employee, as executive vice president of the Trump org and special counsel to Donald from 2007 to 2017, to the day of inauguration. Then I became personal attorney to President Donald Trump. It's many years ago. I mean, you're talking about almost, 8 years ago from the time I stopped, right? As opposed to 18 years ago. Everybody changes over 18 years. So he's lethargic now. He's also angry. And the problem with Donald Trump is when he gets angry, he doesn't think straight. And when he does, he believes that whatever he says is the gospel. It's 100%. But he doesn't know. There you go. Now he wants reporters shot too. I mean, this is crazy. This is just craziness. He doesn't know what to say in order to keep not just his base, but he thinks that this is going to draw people in. Because look, Anthony, I'm sure, you have issues with, the press as well. They say things, they write things. They don't really care about fact checking or truth. At least that's things that I've experienced. And then you turn around and say, but do I really want them shot? No, absolutely not. I believe in a free and fair press. But I want to go back for a second before we actually, and I want to show you the lie that we started this entire conversation, Anthony. I want to show you and the brigaders the lie of Donald Trump telling the audience that his crowds are always capacity, hers are not. Play the clip.
In 9 years, we've had the biggest rallies in history of any country. And every rally's full. You don't have any seats that are empty. You don't have anything yet. I mean, the one we had today, you missed a beauty. We could have filled that place up 20 times. I mean, that was beautiful. And the Virginia rally, did you hear about the Virginia rally? That was, Glenn Youngkin did a great job, the governor of Virginia, and they had a crowd there.
Yeah.
Listen, remember what I said before? Don't trust your lying eyes, trust mine.
It's so interesting that this is a guy who, after a decade of lying, because I was thinking, when you and him parted company in 2017, you effectively gave him to us.
2018.
In 2018. We've had him since that period, and it's been difficult to say the very least, because it changed the whole political landscape. Suddenly, he was kind of riding off the back of being anti-establishment. I'm not a politician. And he's not even a businessman. I mean, the guy played one on TV, but, I was reading that stuff about the marketing director from The Apprentice who said, his boardroom was too shabby. We had to create a set with one to kind of make him look like he was more of a serious business person than he really was. And he was available. I mean, all the other billionaires they went to simply weren't available to do that show. But Trump is a showman first, isn't he? Like that kind of... Really, to me, I get the impression that he maybe should have just been an actor or reality TV show.
By the way, he wanted to be as a young man.
Yeah,
that's really what he wanted to be,
and left it there.
He wanted to be an actor.
So he was acting the role of president for 4 years because he didn't want to work. I mean, the guy just wanted to sit and watch TV talking about him in the dining room.
Yeah, a lot of the things that he is interested in, like. There were times that his plane wasn't available. It was either in for service and whatever, and he was going down to Florida. So he would jump on JetBlue or a Delta or American Airlines, which I always thought was very endearing. I really did. I thought it was endearing. But when he would show up with a stack of newspapers. Ivanka used to do the same thing. She used to copy Daddy in that all the time. They show up with a stack of maybe 12, 15 newspapers. And he'll go through them, even when he's on his own plane. He'll go through them. He's not reading the newspaper for the news or the information. He's reading it in order to see if his name is actually in it, right? So that's a very different type of a person, right? I'm reading the newspaper for the article, for what it says. He's reading it to see if he made the newspaper or if there's some opportunity that he thinks could be there. For example, how he ended up learning even about the Kluge estate, which is what ultimately became the Trump winery. He read about that in a paper or the Running Horse Project in Fresno, California that he sent me on. He read it in the newspaper about how this 1,000-acre property is supposed to be the site of like the 2010 U.S. Open, the golf, right, a PGA championship, which he did not have one at the time. And he always wanted it. So he's like, go get it, right? Go see if we can't get that project. And, I went to Fresno a couple of times. It didn't happen. But that's how he reads the newspaper, mostly for his name, but also to see what could be potentially available. But I do really want to get back into these swing states. I want to get into the conversation on these swing states and, how we're beginning to see voters actually turn and move away from red or purple to blue. Play the clip on the Wisconsin.
I will never vote for a convicted felon for president of the United States.
Conservative Mark Gagnon says instead of Trump, he's picking the Harris-Walz ticket.
I voted for him the first time he ran. I was gravely disappointed. I think we need younger people. I mean, what's an 80-year-old person know what a 30-year-old family needs?
Yeah, there's a lot stacked against him. I mean, A, he's 78 years of age. B, he's done it before, and he screwed up COVID so badly. We know he inherited Obama's economy, so he can't really take credit for that. I think people are starting to realize that now. But I just cannot see why people would want someone who is so divisive, so aggressive, so abusive with their language to represent America. That's the bit, from a holistic perspective, that's the way I look at this. That you can poll these swing states as much as you like. There's going to be an awful lot of Republicans who might not publicly admit that they voted for Harris, but privately, when they're in the booth, that's what they're going to do.
And the only person that's going to know who you voted is you and your God. Plain and simple, right? And then the person who's tallying up the vote, if in fact that it's by a mail-in ballot or, right, the machine itself. That information is between you and yourself and your God. And so the notion that everybody who is a Republican is voting for Trump, we already know that 30% of the Republican Party, the Nikki Haley supporters, have already said they are not voting for Donald Trump for a multitude of reasons, some of which, Anthony, you spelled out. The divisiveness, the rhetoric, the anger, the vitriol, the attacks, right? The sexism, the racism, etc. That's not what I think people want. I think the American people, at least more than 50.1%, are tired of waking up to the chaos, to this like Kardashian reality show that we call our daily news.
Do you remember that every day, and of course you remember, every day under the Trump administration was a scandal, right? Whether it was him drawing the hurricane with the Sharpie or, something that just everything was going wrong. And I would wake up and I'd be like, what's it going to be today? They criticized Kamala Harris with Joe Biden's administration for not doing anything. But what they're actually saying is there wasn't a daily scandal. And they just assume that without daily scandals that they aren't doing anything. I don't want the administration to be drawing attention to itself. I want them to be running the country quietly and effectively. And I think that is the greatest fear. Going back to Trump means going back to the controversies and to the extremism, the insane, weird relationships, the secret meetings with Putin, thinking Viktor Orban is a great person to kind of give you a reference. I mean, come on. I just think the American people are smarter than that, which is partly why I moved here.
Look, I hope that they are, because I can't imagine what the next decade is going to look like. We're already having to, and I think we'll all acknowledge this, even when Trump loses, even when he loses, there is still Trumpism alive in America.
Yeah.
There are too many politicians that have decided that they want to be the Trump 2.0, the Trump 3.0, guys like Ron DeSantis, who Trump himself has excommunicated. This guy was on the trail with Trump. Newsweek did an article last week. It's written by Catherine Fung, F-U-N-G. I talk about it since I read it just the other day. It popped up on and I actually had to call her and to thank her for the article, which was really done many weeks ago, but she revived it and then wrote the story where I had made a comment to her in a conversation that Donald Trump eats alone. And when I say Donald Trump eats alone, I'm not talking about this is a guy who goes out to the 21 Club or the Polo Bar or what have you by himself and he has his steak with his potatoes and the whole 9 yards. No, I'm talking about it as a reference, right? It's an analogy, meaning Elon Musk thinks that Donald Trump is going to be a useful idiot for him to become, the ruler of the whole world, or to take over the world, or to be involved with our NASA and so on. Again, what this is a fantasy by Elon Musk. In fact, when Elon Musk at that rally, the racist rally at Madison Square Garden, got those booming cheers when he got out for like 5 minutes, the crowd was going crazy. He got more applause than Donald did. Don't think for a second that is not noticed by Trump. And when I say Donald eats alone, he doesn't like anybody else getting any accolades at all. In fact, that's the death touch. That's what Ron DeSantis ended up experiencing when people were saying, he would be a great president. All of a sudden, Trump is like, the fuck? What?
Yeah.
This guy's getting all this notoriety off my back, and now all of a sudden they're talking about maybe he should end up being the president and so on and so forth. And that was the kiss of death. The same thing for guys like John Paulson, for Howard Lutnick, for Steve Witkoff. All these guys turn on, Donald's my best friend. Fuck out of here. All right.
Trump is increasingly isolated, though, isn't he? And not just from people that used to be friends, but even just the way in which he operates. He almost has nobody, as you were saying, you used to play that role. He has nobody to kind of connect with on any level other than surface. And so you even see that, with Melania now. She really is very much on the clock, isn't she? She was obviously paid to come and walk to the ballot box with him.
100%. By the way, if you notice, she kept looking at her watch. And I think the clock is rolling and she's counting how much money that
she's like, I just got another $3,000.
$3,000. Believe me, it's a lot more than that. Those days of her accepting $3,000 are long over. But I'll tell you but this is not going unnoticed. So for example, like Kamala Harris's comms director, this guy, Michael Tyler, chimed in on this. Play that clip.
Listen, we feel good about what we're seeing in Pennsylvania and across the battleground states. I think when you look at the early vote data, yes, there has been a mode shift because Republicans, they used to disparage early voting and claim it was fraud. They've now embraced it and have encouraged their voters to do so. So you're seeing a little bit of a mode shift. But we are also hitting our benchmarks in states like Pennsylvania and across the country, where lower propensity Democratic target voters have been voting throughout the early vote period. But we're not resting on our laurels, right? That's why over the weekend,
they're not.
No.
And one thing also, which I think is extremely relevant to why I believe that more than 50.1% of this country will end up voting Kamala Harris. Look at the diversity that exists at her rallies. Look at the diversity in terms of her comms director. Look at the diversity of the people that have come out, from the Liz Cheneys to the Oprah Winfreys, from the Taylor Swifts to the Beyoncés. She owns the spectrum.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's rallies, other than the handful of where it says Blacks for Trump, and they're paid actors, by the way, other than these people, it looks like a Klan meeting.
Right. And Hulk Hogan, of course. Don't forget him.
2015 and 2016, I created, along with this guy, Pastor Darrell Scott, from the New Spirit Revival Church in Cleveland, Ohio. We created, it was my idea, but we created it together, called the National Diversity Coalition for Trump. What happened is I'm watching this rally on television, and it is glaring to me that it is very salt. It's all white. There was no diversity. And I came into his office the next day and I said, hey, boss, can I be on? I got to tell you something. I said, great rally last night. A lot of energy, and there was. A lot of enthusiasm, and there was. I said, but you got no diversity. You can't win an election simply off of the white male vote.
Right. America doesn't look like that.
No. So he said to me, and so I said, I'm going to create something. He goes, good, do it. And that was the entire thing. And I created it, and we had over 10 million people that joined this thing. It was so big that the Republican Party asked me if they can have it. And of course, after the election, I gave it to them. What did I care? What did I want it for? My point being, you don't have that with Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
You have America. You have what America represents, what America looks like, not this long beard, bald head, red beard, big ass belly, MAGA hick, right? With 3 teeth and 4 brain cells. Very, very different group on the other side.
Because America is better than that. And I think, Harris looks like what America looks like. Her mixed parentage is what America looks like. And unfortunately, so much of what we hear from the right, the far right, the Christian nationalist movement is this great replacement theory. The Tucker Carlson was pushing it, of course.
MAGA Mike Johnson is
MAGA Mike Johnson
when he turned around and he said, he goes, what do you I want to see America return to a white Christian nationalist country. And in fact, this country has never been white, Christian, or nationalist.
Right.
So before we go forward to talk about what's coming up next, meaning a Michigan voter and so on, I want to just take a few minutes for one of our ads. Let's play it.
It's hot outside, and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend that you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA, and they use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands. And you know what? They feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature, again, all night long, no matter the weather, so that you get better sleep every single night. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. Sleep clean with Miracle. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7%. Get a look, 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. So there's no more gross odors too. Go to trymiracle.com/beat to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code BEAT, B-E-A-T, at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save, get a load of this, an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Now upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made and go to trymiracle.com/beat and use the code BEAT to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/beat to treat yourself. And thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Hey, let me be clear about something. No man wants to lose his hair, but for men, it's actually very common. And now with Hims, the solution is simple. Try Hims Hair Loss Solutions, and you'll be joining hundreds of thousands of subscribers who got their flow back. Hims provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. They offer you personalized, chewable, oral spray and serum treatment options so you can find what works best for you. The process is simple and 100% online. Here's what you do. You just answer a few questions, and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to your door. Hims has hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers. So if you feel like you're losing a part of yourself with your hair loss, get Hims and get your confidence back. So go right now and start your free online visit today at hims.com/beat. That's HIMS.com/beat, BEAT, for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/beat. And remember that results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Well, thank you to our sponsors. We have more, but thank you to our sponsors because, as we always tell you, Midas Touch Network, we don't take outside investors here. All right. This is all done thanks to folks like them that end up sponsoring these shows so we could bring you truth to power. And Anthony, at the clips, you have to always protect the face. No, arms in. There you go. All righty. So look, today's election day, the day that everybody's sitting there and there's a lot of pent up energy and nervousness and so on. I want to show you something, a clip of Nevada undecided voter, really sort of expressing the sentiment of what so many people are going through right now. Play the clip.
Anything different from the last time we were here?
A lot.
Saros is now voting Harris, and he says the racist insults at the weekend Trump event exploded on social media, triggered listener calls, texts, emails.
That alone flipped a lot of people that were going to go for Trump now saying, hey, maybe I'm not too sure. And maybe I'm going, with Harris. The rhetoric, whether directly from, the candidate or not, it's.
What do they look? First and foremost, I don't believe that there are that many undecided voters at that point in time. I think a lot of them are actually looking for some activity, some publicity. I really don't. I cannot imagine that you're waiting till the last day, the day before Election Day, and you're talking about, that last rally, that really did it. You mean, what was that? His hand job of the mic stand and the blow job of the microphone? That was what threw you over, right? I mean, talk about exactly on Drudge Report, blowing it. Trump simulates oral sex on stage. My friends, this is not a joke. This is actual reality. As I said, he's making this race into reality TV.
It's a joke to him, though, isn't it? Because, I don't think he even really wants to win. He just wants to not go to prison. But he doesn't have the energy to be the president for another 4 years. He would much rather just be chilling out. He keeps saying at the rallies, I don't need to be here. I could be on a beach right now. And I feel like saying, well, go to a beach then, because we don't need someone who is not taking this seriously. And the sad part of it is that the people around him, you mentioned the Nazi rally the other night. Stephen Miller got up and said, America is for Americans and Americans only. That is the serious side of the Trump movement, that the people that are around him, they really are xenophobic, they are racist, they are Christian nationalists, they are far right, they are white supremacists.
Stephen Miller is Jewish.
Yeah.
You understand that? Which makes...
How did that happen?
He's spewing Nazi rhetoric.
Yeah.
Which look, Stephen Miller was always a weird dude. He was always weird.
Nosferatu.
And there's something very wrong when you have somebody who's Jewish turning around and spewing Nazi propaganda hatred, all right, on behalf of Trump. And he does. Now, Steve Bannon, listen, Steve Bannon is Steve Bannon, and he's shown himself to be exactly who he is. But this is really not a joke any longer. And it's one obnoxious, weird thing after another after another. If it's not him giving oral sex to the microphone, it's him turning around and mocking a disabled journalist. If it's not knocking a disabled, it's attacking Kamala Harris, claiming, get a load of this shit, claiming that the only way that she's managed to get to the place that she's at was by being on her back. All right? So basically, you're talking, it's one, to me, as a girl dad, I'm furious at it. Why? So you're telling me that the only way that a woman, that my daughter could achieve great success is by being on her back? Seriously? Kamala Harris was a prosecutor, became a DA, became the AG of California, became a senator of California, the vice president of the United States of America, and the nominee for the presidency of the United States on the Democratic Party side. And the only way she did that was on her back. Seriously, I find it to be not just repulsive. I find it to be the most sexist, stupid, misogynistic thing that any man can say.
And the hypocrisy, because he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth.
Platinum.
And his father gave him millions. And yet he has the cheek to say that. Did you listen to the Jeffrey Epstein tapes that were just released with Bob Woodward and what he was saying about Trump trying to sleep with his friends' wives? I mean, that, was something that I was like, whoa, like this is like the lowest of the low. And I'm only saying this off the back of what you're saying about his comment about Kamala. It's like Trump really is possibly one of the worst Americans to ever live. And the more we find, he can't even get an endorsement from the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that is how low this guy goes.
It's worse than that. It's worse than even the recordings.
Yeah.
Donald Trump has behaved in a way which has been so divisive and so demeaning to women. Right? Jeffrey Epstein is just a sicko. And the claims by Trump that he's never met him, doesn't really know him, they're friends, but they're not really friends. Then all these photos come out. There's so much conspiracy theory that's coming out as a direct result of this. But again, it goes right back to his hatred for whatever the reason may be. He'll want you to believe that he loves women, he's going to protect women, even if they don't like it. Those are the words, those are the words that a sex offender uses. I don't care what she says. There's an old saying, right? No means no, right? They don't need him to protect them. They need potentially him to stop acting the way he's doing to protect them from him. In fact, he goes so low as to sit there and to sort of tease the crowd about calling Nancy Pelosi a bitch. Play the clip.
She's a crooked person. She's a bad person. Evil. She's an evil, sick, crazy, bad. Oh, no. It starts with a B, but I won't say it. I want to say it.
Anthony, tell me, please, two things. One, what's he doing with his head? There's nobody there pushing his head into the microphone. That I can assure you, And the second, which is I find the most offensive of it all, the crowd. What the hell's going on there?
I mean, this is the cult mentality, isn't it? That once you've bought into the cult leader, that anything that he says is going to get a reaction. And he knows that. And he's so past it now. Whether he knows deep inside that he's a loser at heart, I don't know. But he's at the point now where he doesn't care anymore. So he's not playing by any rules or protocols of being a presidential candidate. He's, he's trying to eat the microphone, and basically he's trying to present a version of himself that is so base. He's trying to come down to a level that he thinks that they are at, because he doesn't have any respect for those people that support him, ultimately. I just think he's given up, in a way, and this is what we're seeing in that. We should also not fail to mention that he is looking more and more like Ronald McDonald all the time. I mean, this clown makeup now has got ridiculous. I mean, in that clip, the guy was like luminous, iridescent almost. And you're voting, as you can see in this image. It's very hard not to laugh at it, at this Oompa Loompa. But, very little of this photograph has been doctored. The hair was added and the hands were made a little smaller, but that was it, as you can see from the original. And this is the proof to me that we are talking about somebody who is, who is inhumane. I mean, it's just not natural. You can't trust people that look like that. I mean, this is the border crisis he wants to worry about.
Yeah, the nice thing about this election is regardless of who wins, at least it'll be somebody of color. Right?
These are some of the best jokes you're going to get, folks.
Goodness
me.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I apologize.
I was just about to say that, obviously today is this final day that this build-up has been huge. And I should also mention that we will be doing full coverage of this election. And as the states announce, right here on the Midas Touch Network from 2:30 this afternoon. But I just wanted to talk about how he might be feeling today, because he's obviously gone back to Mar-a-Lago. The guy is effectively alone. Sure, have campaign people around him, but Melania's gone off to wherever she lives. She is not there. You need your closest person with you. If you're in a relationship, you'll know that this connection is essential during these important times. Trump doesn't have that. So how do you think he'll be feeling today?
Yeah, he doesn't have that. In fact, it was a role that I somewhat fulfilled.
Right.
There were times like my family and we would go to Bedminster on the weekend where I would go play some tennis. My cousin and his family spent a lot of time out there. And I would go there. And the second that he would find out that I was there, he immediately beehived to the table that we were sitting at. Became close with my cousin, who happens to be a scratch golfer. He would come and sit with us and spend time. And then he would have me go back to the house and sit down. And we would just end up, while my family's outside, and so on, he would just turn on the television. We would end up watching a football game. Donald never really had friends. In fact, all these folks that are constantly saying, oh, he's my best friend. He's my best friend. No, he's not. No, he's not. I hate to say it. It was one of the things that made my extrication of the Trump cult very difficult for me. People think that it was just like one day I just made the decision that, I was not going to remain loyal to Donald Trump and so on. It was a process, and it was really my family, my wife, my daughter, and my son who came and said to me, where's your loyalty? What about to us, right? And I was like, yeah, you're right. But it was very difficult for me. Even when I was speaking with the Mueller team, there was one session where they were asking me questions and they were like, that's just not true. And I was protecting him at the time. And I was like, I had fallen back like into the cult. The extrication from the cult was very, very difficult. In fact, I have a third book that I'm literally just finished writing the manuscript for. I'll show it to you. This is the manuscript. I took it here with me because I'm doing the final edit now before it goes, before I put it out. But there are these topics that are included in this, which it was very, very, he does not have that. And I know this is going to sound strange coming from me. I feel bad that he doesn't have anyone. His kids can't play that role.
Yeah.
All right. Not Ivanka, not Dawn, not Eric, certainly not Tiffany or Barron. He doesn't have Melania as a shoulder, right, to lean on. He doesn't have sisters or brothers that he could lean on, all right, those that are still alive, or nephews, or even friends. He just has himself. And that's why he's demonstrating his worst self. He has become the worst version of himself imaginable. And I honestly, I feel sorry for him. And people get angry at me, including my own family, when I say that, I feel sorry that he doesn't have anybody to help to keep him on somewhat of a straight path, because he's like, remember when we were kids, there was a book about the crooked man. There was a crooked man who had a crooked house, right? And so on. It's just who he is. He's crooked. Yeah. He's all bent out of fucking shape. And we see it every time he goes to one of these rallies. Again, it's all divisive. It's chaos. It's all mean-spirited. It's attack. It's retribution. It's executions. It's beating people up. I mean, Donald's a guy who's never had a fight in his life. So what are you talking about beating people up?
The negativity is something that people feel. And again, this stuff doesn't show up in polls. But, as humans, we share something, and that is we have great instinct for goodness and bad. And I sense that people watching him, even people that are in the cult or maybe are on the cusp of leaving because they're seeing him implode effectively, recognize that negativity is not good for America. And if you contrast that to Kamala Harris's campaign, one of hope, one of joy, one of positivity, what America is capable of, I think inclusivity. Yeah. So we seek to be somewhere where we feel good. And I don't get the feeling that Trump supporters anymore are feeling good in his presence. It's too negative.
Yeah, and it's I mean, Trump trashes. Here, go back to that one. Trump trashes USA, garbage can of the world.
Right, talking down on America. It's not a great campaign move, is it?
It's not just is it not a good campaign move. It's idiotic. You are running to be president of the United States, claiming that the country that you want to be the president of is a garbage can. Seriously, that the people are trash, and unless you support him, that you show fealty to him, 100% loyalty to him, then you too are trash. That is not the campaign message that I believe anybody wants to or should put out. See, if I was there, I would never allow that. No. I would never allow that. I would have cracked Stephen Miller right across the side of the head. You don't write like that. And before you give Donald another piece of paper, or before you go ahead and you give him talking points for these rallies, you show them to me, right? And after the first slap across the side of the head, he'll never not show it to me again in advance, because somebody has to protect him from himself. And you know what? Without those guardrails, and worse, without any guardrails, thanks to the Supreme Court of the United States, all of his worst impulses will become a reality. And I want to say again to our brigaders, because this is no joke, I don't believe 50.1% of this country is stupid enough to believe a single thing that Donald is saying. And I believe that more than 50.1% acknowledge what I'm saying, that his worst impulses will become a reality, including things like what he did to me when he made me the first and only political prisoner ever held by my own country because I refused to waive my First Amendment constitutional right. All right? Plain and simple. And my goal when I filed that Supreme Court writ of certiorari, when I filed the action against Trump in the USA, the DOJ, and Bill Barr, and so on, the reason I did that is to make sure, Anthony, that what they did to me never, ever, ever happens to you. In fact, we were speaking about it the other day on our Patreon. So to those of you that want to join, because we're going to be doing another one right after the election, you go to patreon.com/political beatdown. Join us. It's private conversations, one-on-one with me and Ben. Maybe even we'll let Anthony come in there, but it's patreon.com/political beatdown. So before we go to our just final last minutes, we have one last ad that we want to show to you. Play it.
You know when you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you bump on repeat and you just have to share it with your friends so that they too can experience just how awesome it is? Well, that's kind of what it feels like when you discover that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. I mean, it's such an awesome deal that there's no way that you can keep it to yourself. Look, I don't even want to begin to tell you with my wife, my 2 kids, how much money that I pay each and every month. This is just a great deal. And remember, friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. So say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your squad with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. And all plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text that's delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. Now, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go right now to mintmobile.com/beat. That's mintmobile.com/beat. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/beat. $45 upfront payment required. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabyte on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. So see Mint Mobile for details.
And thank you, Mint Mobile. Excellent, excellent service. Hey, can I show you something? So here I am at this hotel, right, ready to do it. And you want to see what the BBC sent to me? You're going to find this is a white chocolate White House, right,
Whoa.
that opens up, and there's chocolate inside of it, right, along with 2 little macaroons on the side. It's really very, very funny. I mean, everybody's all engrossed into this election, and they should be. You know why? Because our democracy, our democratic republic, depends on it. You know, I was in Italy not too long ago, and one of the reasons was I was talking to this live audience there. They are very concerned, as is the whole world, what happens here. Why? Well, I want to just jump in something really, really super, super quick. I hear from so many of my friends who are Jewish, where they're like, well, I can't vote for Kamala Harris. I'm like, why not? Well, Donald Trump is better for Israel. I want to remind people just how bad Donald Trump is as it relates to Israel. Donald Trump claims that he's best friends with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin is in bed with who? Iran, right? And so what is Iran's position towards Israel? Do you not understand the transactional nature of Donald Trump? So to those people that are saying, well, I can't vote for Kamala Harris because Donald Trump is better for Israel, let me be very clear. Donald Trump is for one person and one person only. One thing and one thing only, and that's Donald Trump.
That is, again, another subject that people kind of struggle to get into because of the complexities of it. And even Donald Trump taking ownership of moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, that has caused huge problems for
that was
people.
Transactional.
Right. And then these fake Abraham Accords, where he supposedly brought peace to the Middle East, except he didn't include Palestine or the Palestinians in the negotiations. I mean, this is serious stuff. The whole thing was performative. It didn't change anything.
Well, when I say that moving the embassy, first of all, it's merely a building. Has nothing to do with peace. It's basically you're moving a building. It's a symbolic gesture. Fine, no problem. He didn't do it because he thought it would benefit Israel. He did it because Sheldon Adelson offered him $100 million, along with Dr. Miriam Adelson, the wife of Sheldon Adelson. They offered him $100 million to move the embassy before Sheldon died, which Donald, of course, did. Hence the term transactional.
Yeah.
And I was there for that.
The thing is, he will create a storyline, a narrative. And I just wish that not just voters, but the media made more effort to kind of dig into it, because nothing he says is down the line. You really have to take everything with a pinch of salt, as well as the projection, of course. So when he says that Kamala is, she's not with it, he's talking about himself, right? And that is clear to anybody who understands and speaks the language of Donald Trump, that you can see through everything that the guy says. And I'm convinced now that having had to deal with him for the last almost a decade in politics, American politics, that a lot more people now speak the language of Trump. They don't fall for his lines, for his false narrative. They actually are able to translate it on the fly to what it is that he really means. And with that in mind, there is no way those people will vote for him.
I agree with you, and that's why I believe this election is going to result in a substantial Democratic victory. Little concerned about the Senate, but I believe Democrats take the House back, and I believe we keep the White House. That's my prediction. Let me just remind everybody, all our brigaders, please, if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, please go to YouTube at The Michael Cohen Show. It's fantastic. We break it down into these, 12-minute, give or take, segments, showing you all the facts, the truth, and nothing but the truth. And if you haven't had a chance, subscribe as well to my podcast, Mea Culpa. That's the one with the blue background icon. Right now, I have one with Lev Parnas, where you get the raw and unfiltered conversation between two guys that were there on the inside. He was, of course, Rudy Giuliani's guy. He's the guy who tried to deal with Ukraine in order to not only the Hunter Biden laptop, but also to get them to open up that fake investigation, which, of course, caused Zelensky and Trump to be at odds. So I have Lev Parnas on now, if you haven't seen that. And subscribe to all the Midas Touch Network properties, because one thing that you get from this network, and I've said it before and I'll say it again and again and again, you don't get opinion, you get fact. And what we do is, and I'm in a unique situation for this, what we do is we try to give you past experiences in order to validate exactly what's going on now. Because there's the old expression, history repeats itself. And that's what we're trying to show you as it relates to Donald Trump. So Anthony Davis, let me thank you for joining me, as Ben, unfortunately, was out today dealing again with some daddy issues, as he's a new daddy to a beautiful little girl. So, I'm sure when we find out why he was playing hooky from us, we'll give him a little ribbing. But I'm thrilled and thankful to have had you here for, this episode of Political Beatdown with our brigaders. Brigaders, thank you so much. And remember, all the Midas Touch Network properties, please go to them, like my Mea Culpa podcast, the blue icon background, subscribe to that, as well as, again, my Political Beatdown. You can get this there on wherever you listen to podcasts as well. It actually helps with the algorithm.
And I just finally want to say that I'm very pleased, Michael, that during our conversation that Rudy Giuliani didn't show up and lie on that bed and try and take his pants off, because I was worried that could have happened at any moment. So I'm thrilled we got to the end without that.
Thank you, Sacha Baron Cohen. Appreciate it. Brigaders, thank you all, and we'll see you very, very soon.